Okay, you're good to go anytime.
Okay, so Leanne, I'm trying to share my screen as well, and I think it says it's been disabled.
Okay.
You just have to let me share my screen.
Just 1 second.
Or you may have to make me host or something. So
yeah, I think I'll co-host you, but I'm just
okay,
trying to find you on my list here. 1 second. You know, technology, it's always fun sometimes.
Hey, it's okay. My basement is actually flooding as we speak. So
oh no.
I was a few minutes late logging on, so I'm so sorry, but I'm kind of dealing with a crisis right now in my home.
oh, fun. Okay, you should be good to go there.
Okay, awesome. So, hi everybody. Oh gosh, COVID. Okay, so first of all, thank you, Rosita and Leanne, for organizing today. I know this has been a long time coming, so we're looking forward to doing this presentation. I know I have a hard out, and probably all of you do at 2 o'clock. So we thought that we would just start with a presentation and just give you an insight into what Joga is, some of the teams and athletes that we've worked with over the last 15 years, and then of course how this pertains to gymnastics and a potential partnership. And then from there, we're going to spend about 40 minutes actually doing the program. So you guys will actually be, doing Joga. We'll take you through our inaugural program, which is called the Fire Starter. And then we'll leave 5 to 10 minutes after that just for everybody to ask some questions if anything comes up throughout the next hour. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. So introduction for Joga and Gymnastics BC. So the 3 components of Joga, obviously our first one is the postures, which are a unique blend of traditional yoga postures with biomechanics of sports. The second pillar of our program is obviously the breathing, and then the third is the relaxation element. Movements are designed within the kinetic chain, understanding how gymnasts move and train. Specific anatomical cues are used to find symmetry in the core structures of the gymnast body so it operates with higher efficiency and lower effort. 3-dimensional movements of Joga combine dynamic and static positions with a focus on balance and joint stability. All positions are generated from stability with a focus on centralized movement. So as opposed to a typical yoga class where you're finding traditional yoga postures and static holds, we look at actually biomechanics of sport and apply movement patterns that are cohesive to that sport. So instead of holding that long or that slow twitch muscle, we do use a combination of fast twitch and slow twitch. And we really focus on a stability portion, which I know for gymnastics, a lot of it is about flexibility. But then again, it's about overextending into ligaments and tendons. So we're very cautious of that and how we learn to stabilize the core structures before any type of movement. The second piece, and probably the piece that most athletes benefit from the most from our program, is the breathing. As an athlete myself, and what we've learned from athletes that we work with, is the biggest testimonial we get is how the breath changes their whole game, and how they can use it in a moment for stress, they can use it to find more core strength, etc. So when we talk about breath techniques for gymnasts, we talk about how we coordinate breath with movement to increase the gymnast range of motion and mind-muscle connectivity. Maximum lung capacity, and we channel oxygen to blood flow more efficiently. We use different breathing techniques to balance the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, so we're still able to access that creative portion of the brain, maintaining all the training that is done as well. So it's that combination of both, and different breathing techniques we do activate the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. We use the belly breathing specifically to stimulate the relaxation response. We actually stimulate the vagus nerve through different nerve meridians. This connects to the right side of the brain. So in a moment of stress, an athlete can take a deep belly breath and it can completely counteract that stimulus of stress. So we find awesome results here with our highly competitive athletes. The last piece is the relaxation techniques used for managing stressors. So we challenge the physical body while practicing mental toughness, the goal being to remain calm and non-reactive. Athletes reserve energy and become more sustainable. So we use specific relaxation tools to relax even the repetitive muscles of the eyes and the jaws and the tongue, producing more range of motion and mobility in the spine. Obviously, there's a lot of science there that we don't have enough time to get into today, but the Coles Notes version of that is when we hold tension in our jaw and our tongue, it actually affects the erectus spinous. So those are the muscles up and down the spine, which affects our mobility. So our T-spine mobility affects our shoulder mobility. So we find a lot of athletes hold tension in their jaw, they have TMJ, and this impacts their mobility. We also use particular breathing techniques and phrases used to calm the mind and ease any anxiety, pressure that comes along with being an elite athlete. Again, the meditations that we talk about are geared toward the ecosystem of an athlete and how we know athletes understand and interpret information, whereas a traditional yoga class, sometimes they're chanting Om and they're just doing things that, aren't really digestible for the athlete's ear. So the whole philosophy of yoga is that we've taken all this amazing, Western science of yoga, but applied it to how the Western body and the mind interprets information. How Joga can improve the gymnast performance. So Joga creates a neuromuscular memory, so gymnasts are intrinsically stabilize their spine during performance and ultimately for life. What this means is because the movements of Joga are repetitive and they are done over and over, it's like anything that an athlete does over and over, it just becomes a part and an innate piece of their neuromuscular system. And so same application with Joga, we go over the same movements. The program actually doesn't change, it evolves and it progresses. But in terms of creating those neuromuscular memory patterns, we actually use the same program over and over again. And this is what makes a big impact in how the athletes' bodies interpret the information and how we're able to take it then off the mat and into gymnastics, sport, etc. We train the gymnast or the athlete to work how to connect their core mechanics and their breath mechanics. Again, understanding like the pelvic lumbar stabilization and how we can actually use the breath mechanic to connect to those two intrinsic core muscle groups. The whole system of Joga is that we and you will see this as we go through the class today, but we strategically fatigue the bigger muscle groups that always are working, like the quads and the hamstrings and the glutes. So we get into the intrinsic stabilizers. There's a strategy around this and how we work with the human body. Joga's sensomotor learning is relatively permanent change in neural network due to repeated practice. So again, this is like everything I say to my athletes, skills and drills. The more you do it, the more it just becomes a part of how you move. We talk a lot about proprioception and how it heightens in the sense of self-movement and body position, obviously important for gymnasts. And then this just goes over the common injuries in gymnastics, which I am sure all of you are very familiar with. And then we go in how Joga supports gymnasts for recovery and injury prevention. So Joga practice uses active recovery movements to provide balance between the gymnast workload and injury prevention. Instead of traditional static stretches, which can overextend ligaments and tendons, as I was talking about with a typical stretching or yoga class, they loosen joint capsules. We use dynamic stretching. Joga involves reciprocal inhibition movements, what inhibits opposing muscles during that movement. So again, as opposed to stretching, we use reciprocal inhibition to produce a specific mobility response in the body, which I'll talk about in the session today. We focus a lot on eccentric load and how this gives the nervous system a signal that it's safe to move, which increases range of motion and obviously joint support. How Joga provides mental and emotional support for gymnasts. The ecosystem of the gymnastics, mental blocking, school, and home can create mental and emotional stress for gymnasts. Again, these breathing and relaxation tools that we include in the program that are very non-invasive help these athletes manage stress, increase mental focus by using the techniques. Again, just as a repetition, the Joga belly and chest breathing balance is the left side of the brain. We always start with this. We find a lot of our athletes will use this pre-game or pre-competition just to get the left-right brain in a place of balance. And then again, the Joga relaxation and breathing techniques focus on parasympathetic nerve stimulation to decrease cortisol output and increase human growth hormone. And what we're really talking about here is the sustainability of the athlete. What we have learned by working in high performance is that these athletes are always in a state of sympathetic nervous system. So they're training all of the time, so their bodies are fatigued, then they become mentally and emotionally fatigued. And what happens then, this lends to increased chance of injuries because the body just never has a chance to repair. So what we're suggesting is to use Joga as an active recovery methodology to not only to give their physical system recovery, but also the mental and emotional system. So the body, the hormonal body, can do its job in terms of producing human growth hormone, which again is the hormone that repairs muscle tissue, that when the body is in a constant state of stress, the body actually doesn't produce human growth hormone. The second piece is when the body is and the mind is in a constant state of stress, the body produces an excess amount of cortisol levels. And when there's too much cortisol in the body, again, the ecosystem or the human system can't do what it's supposed to do, which in most cases is recover. Like the body naturally repairs its cells. And so we've learned over the years of working with athletes, like where we fit is in the space of like teaching athletes how to control their mindset, how to take care of their emotional body as well as just as importantly as their physical body. And we live in the space of recovery, mental recovery, emotional recovery, and physical recovery. So because we only have an hour, all of this information can be sent to you guys. It's also on our website, and Rosita can get you this. But I think to make the best use of our time, we should just do some Joga. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask everybody just to go into their space. And Leanne, if you could spotlight Rosita now, because she is going to demo for us, that would be fantastic. Awesome. All right. Now I don't see anybody's screen, so I don't really have anybody to coach. So is your group participating today, Leanne?
It's up to the participant. If they would like to participate, they can turn on their screen. Otherwise, some people might be sitting, taking notes and just listening and watching. But
Okay.
it's up to the participant.
Okay, yeah, if you can participate, I highly suggest participating, just because Joga is very much a kinetic understanding, and you guys being athletes and coaches will understand the program better by feeling it in your body, especially when we're talking about proprioception and reciprocal inhibition. And what makes Joga very special, what you see on the screen, you will get an idea of the programming, which is great. But if you have the space to do the program, I highly recommend getting on your mats or onto your floor and doing it with us. All right, so without further ado, I will get started with the breathing. So Rosita's going to come to lie on her back, and we always begin our programs with this belly chest breathing. Again, just as a reminder, we use this to bring the right and left brain into a place of balance. As well, we start to prepare the neuromuscular body before we move into the muscular body. So it's about understanding how the systems of the body work and how we can strategically stack them on top of one another to get a more efficient result. Understanding that at times we only have 20-25 minutes to get an effect or an impact with our athletes. So it's very much the Joga system is understanding the human system and how to optimize those systems of the body to create impact. All right, so bringing your right hand onto your lower belly, left hand onto the chest, tactile points for breath. Pinky finger is where we're going to place the breath. You're going to imagine that you have two straws coming out of your nose. And as you breathe in, you're going to fill up your belly with breath. So start to inhale, low belly breath, 1. Push the belly out, 2, 3, pause, hold. And then exhale for 3, 2, 1. So we inhale through the nose to activate the CO2 receptors. So inhale, breathe in 1, breathe in 2, breathe in 3. We exhale through the mouth, ha sound, 3, releasing jaw tension, 2, and 1. And now we'll find pauses at the top and bottom of the breath. So inhale, belly breath, 1, breathe in 2, breathe in 3. There's a hold. This is how we get the neuromuscular response. And then we exhale for 3, 2, 1, the navel pulls in and we hold the breath. Stay. Now pushing the left hand into the chest, we're going to focus on interthoracic breathing. So inhale, breathe into the front ribs, 1, breathe into the side ribs, 2, all the way through to the upper back ribs, 3, three-dimensional breath, hold, exhale, 3, 2, 1. Again, interthoracic tension, breathe in 1. This also stimulates the thymus gland for immunity, 2, 3, which is compromised when the body is stressed. Exhale, 3, 2, and 1. Again, stretching those muscles between the ribs. Inhale, breathe in 1. This is what creates space for the lungs to move. 2, 3, hold, neuromuscular response. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, release jaw tension, 1. Recovery breath in between. So we inhale through the nose, CO2 receptors for right brain activation. Exhale, ha sound, releasing jaw tension, tongue tension. Nice. Now we combine both breaths. So we're looking for full diaphragmatic breathing here. Inhale into the belly for 1. Push the belly out, 2, 3. There's a hold. We shift into the upper chamber. Inhale, continue breathing in, 1. Keep sipping in breath, 2, 3, and then we hold the breath. Exhaling for 5, 4, soften the jaw, 3, soften the ribs, 2, squeeze the breath out, 1, then you're going to stay empty breath. There's a contraction here, so there's abdominal pressure, hold. And then in your mind, switch the breath. So move to your chest breath first now, then to belly. Inhale, full lungs. Breathe in, 1. 2 straws through the nose, 2. Keep sipping in breath, 3, until you're full lungs, full chest cavity, hold. In your mind, separate to your belly first, and then inhale into the pinky finger of your right hand, 1. Push the belly out, 2. Push the belly out, 3, pause, hold. Exhale, 5. Through the mouth, 4. Relax the jaw, 3. Soften the ribs, 2. And then connect your abdominal wall to your spine, 1, hold, stay empty, contract. Nice. And then big recovery breath here. So big inhale through the nose, big ha sound, exhale. Good. And then at the bottom of that breath, just placing the hands by the side. Again, every move that we do in Joga will be precursed by some sort of stabilization cue, and we use bone cueing. So you're going to take your pubis bone and hug your knees, pull it into your lower spine, and hug your knees to the chest. Good. And then just give yourself a little rock here from left to right. And then eventually you'll just release your knees. We roll to the right side to activate the right side of the brain. Nice. Release your knees, hang out there for a breath or 2. And then coming into your tabletop position. So coming onto your hands and knees. Again, everything that we do with Joga is very focused on the joint stack and joint positioning. So the heel bones are going to be right behind the sits bones. So heels behind the butt cheeks, knees under hip bones, and then the crease of your wrist below the heads of the shoulders. Spread the fingers really wide. Everything that we do in terms of kinetic movement will start, every cue will start at the feet, and then we go through the centralized movement system of the spine, and then we end with the hands. So first we're going to move very mechanically. So go ahead, doors. I flex your ankles, Rosita. So tuck the toes under. Start to lift the sit bones up towards the ceiling. Draw the chest plate forward to lift the head. Push away the floor with the hands. So coming into spinal extension, this is position 1. Leave the head up. Start with the feet. Release the tops of the feet down onto the floor. Pull the pubis bone in. Pull your lower ribs in. Coming into spinal flexion, releasing your head towards the floor. And then even here, tucking your chin back into your throat so your head's not hanging off your cervical spine. Push away the floor, position 2. Moving back to position 1, moving with the feet first. Doors, I flex the ankles, push into the toes, lift the butt, draw the breastbone forward to lift the head, coming into spinal extension, push away the floor. Last time, release the tops of the feet down onto the floor. Squeeze the lower belly in. Good. Pull the ribs in, release the head, holding here in spinal flexion. So once you're here, again, looking at these nuanced movements and how the feet really impact the pelvis. So push their toenails down into the mat and then drag your toenails towards your knees so you're not collapsed into the ligaments of your ankles. And then squeeze your lower belly in more. And then push your shoulder blades up towards the ceiling. And I want you to breathe in between your shoulder blades, so opening up the erected spinous and back and spine. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback here and I don't have control to mute. All right, and then inhale, just coming back into a neutral spine, looking forward. All right, and then doors, I flex the ankles, everyone, whoever's participating, and then we stabilize. So we have these 4 core cues that stabilize the spine. So you're gonna lift your pelvic floor and squeeze your pubis bone in. So activate the TAs, get that pelvic lumbar stabilization, pull your lower front ribs to your back ribs, support the spine, and then draw your breastbone forward. So the head, lift your knees 1 or 2 inches off the floor. So foundation is to hold here, stabilizing, keeping the hips and shoulders completely symmetrical. If we progress to level 1, we pick the right foot up off the floor, stabilizing the hips and shoulders, and then we extend the right leg straight back behind us. That's it. And then again, notice what happens here. If Rosita just relaxes her right foot, the pelvis dumps. Again, doors, I flex the right ankle. Good. Pull the pubis bone in. Good. Breastbone is forward. Spread the fingers nice and wide. Awesome. So the benchmark here is to keep 1 leg in flexion, 1 leg in extension, while keeping pelvis symmetry and shoulder symmetry. From here, reciprocal inhibition. So we hamstring curl the right leg. So we're activating the posterior chain to find mobility in the anterior chain. And then she's going to squeeze her glute to find mobility in the hip joint. Nice. Place that foot onto the floor. So the idea here is to maintain square pelvis, square shoulders, and then we do the other side. Again, pick the left foot up off the floor. So if you're watching, you're looking at her hips. Extend your left foot straight back behind. First kinetic point, how the foot relates to the pelvis. So go ahead, Rosita, let your foot relax off the ankle bone, and then doors I flex. See that impact on pelvis stabilization. Good. Relax the foot again. And then doors, I flex the ankle. Boom, lift the pelvis. Good. And then stabilize the spine. Pubis bone, ribs in, chest plate forward, strong. Now reciprocal inhibition. So we hamstring curl that left leg. That's going to give us mobility in the quad. And then we squeeze the left glute to find hip mobility. And then we place that foot down onto the floor. Pause here. From here, you're going to push into the fronts of the feet, connect to the quads, and then lift your hips up and back. That's it. And then come forward, shoulders back over the wrist. So just mobilizing the shoulder joints, warming up the quads. Push the feet into the floor, activate the quads here. Now forcing the stabilizers to engage. So pubis bone in, ribs in, chest plate forward, push away the floor. Nice. And then rest child's pose. So wide knees, toeing the shoulders, the knees are bent so she can use the strength of her legs to take pressure off the joints of the head of the shoulders. And then we go through those kinetic points. So watch what happens to her hips here when we activate the first kinetic chain. So watch if she just relaxes her feet. Watch the pelvic hip joint. So stability for mobility. All right. And then step the feet knees together. All right. And shake it out. So in this position, if you're doing it at home, you will feel a lot of activation in your foot. So the first joint will lift your pelvic floor, squeeze the pubis bone in, and create some more rotation. So it's the core and the breath producing this movement. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, pull your lower front ribs to your back spine. Good. Rotate a little bit more. Nice. Notice how her knees and hips stay pointing forward. This is really hard to do. Lift your chest back. Again, for sake of time, we're just doing 3 repetitions. Bend your left knee, come on up, inhale. All right, arms are gonna, so last little bit, we work the sagittal plane. Now we work the transverse plane. So the arms come out, pelvis stays stable, and then she's gonna produce T mobility to the right, keeping both thumbs in periphery. Good, holding here. Now she's gonna straighten her back leg. There's her hip hinge. Good, thumbs are gonna come back to the xiphoid process. Good, shoulder blades stay on the spine. She's going to take an inhale. She's going to push her front foot into the floor. So just when the body's fatigued, she's going to use kinetic energy to stay here and produce more range of motion. Nice. And then she's going to look forward, and then her body's going to move forward. Mind a muscle. She's going to push into her left big toe now and reach her arms forward, working on the end range here. Completely stable. And then bring the hands to the floor, pulling the pubis bone in, stabilize first, stepping back to plank position. Now moving into the lateral plane. So adductors are fatigued, so now we go to adductor again, strategy, muscle strategy. Bringing the legs, big inhale, big Hasana, exhale. And now in this downward dog, we're going to work the biomechanics of the feet. So she's going to come high up onto the feet. Again, she's separating the toe joint from the foot. And then focusing on that right side, she's going to release her right heel bone towards the floor, simultaneously her right sit bone. So we get a neural stretch as opposed to a muscular stretch here again. So working on fascia lines, right? And then she's going to come back up onto the toes. As she pushes her right toes down, the left heel reaches towards the floor and the left sit bone lifts up. And then coming back up onto 10 toes, releasing the right heel, tracking here, building dexterity in the foot joint. Come back up onto 10 toes, activating toes, pushing the heel down. Look at her pelvis, stay stable. So again, focusing on pelvis stabilization, shoulder stabilization throughout the whole program. And then pausing here, look forward, walk your feet to the front. And then we're just gonna move through the second side. I'm gonna not talk as much, but you guys can just see how it all flows together. So inhale, come into your half back, hamstring mobility. Good, exhale, low squat. Good. Reach the thumbs to the shoulders, open up the arms, spread the fingers wide. Sorry, Rosita, I'm gonna move you. What happens from right to the knees, low squat. Reach your arms down by the side, roll the shoulders back, come onto the toes of your right foot again, dorsiflex flex the right ankle, reverse lunge. Good, bend your right knee, take the pressure off the hip joint. Lift the left heel, activate glute med, hamstring, arms reach up overhead. Inhale, lift pelvic floor, body weight comes up. Exhale, lower down. Draw the pubis bone back, it stays lifted. Dorsiflex the ankle, hit the lateral plane, side plank. So now she's working the lateral edge of the foot. Good. Look down, bend that left knee, hop to one-legged plank. Cross the left ankle over the right, dorsiflex the ankle. Bend the knees, squeeze the adductors. Bend the elbows to 90. Squeeze the glutes, come straight back up. Good, uncross the legs, widen the stance, breathe, inhale. CO2 release, exhale. Nice, core flow, shift forward, butt up, chest halfway down. Inhale into the upward dog. Come back to high plank, there's a push up here. Good, bend the knees, bum up, downward dog. Inhale, big Hassan, exhale. She steps the right foot forward, we're looking for knee stabilization. Knee stays bent, pick the left leg and the arms up off the floor, hips stay square, nice. Inhale, straighten the right leg. Exhale, load the joint. Hamstring, curl your left, sip and
Yeah, no, we'd like to do it as kind of implemented as part of our startup, right?
yeah.
Because there's going to be so limited what they're going to be able to do. So no, it's awesome. We really liked it.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
They had a nice surprise with one of the national girls came on.
Yeah, that was so great. I got to see
Yeah.
it all of it on social media.